What do you think when you see Saudi Arabia on Wednesday, Egypt on Thursday? What's going on?
This is a muscular intervention, a more muscular and more public intervention, effectively by a US-aligned power there that has been at the receiving end of these attacks, not just from Iran, but also from Iran-aligned Houthis in Yemen. What it's doing now is displaying a public military prowess that it was more restrained about talking about earlier. Effectively, we have a pronounced proxy war here emerging. The war between Iran and the United States hasn't really stopped. There was a bit of a lull ahead of this visit by Netanyahu as Trump pursued yet again talks through Oman on tamping this down, perhaps receiving or reaching a resolution on Hormuz. It's now restarted, but again, it's below the threshold that could be defined as full war. What does that mean? The Americans aren't striking deep inland. They're mainly striking around Hormuz at military facilities that could endanger shipping. And the Iranians are striking at Iranian-aligned powers like Saudi Arabia, potentially Egypt, although Iran has not taken credit for that LNG strike that you mentioned a few minutes ago. However, they're avoiding Israel, the Iranians, right now, and there's a good reason for that. The moment the Israelis are hit by Iran, should that happen, they've said they will attack with full force. Then we could say we're back fully into this war.
What do you make of Benjamin Netanyahu's demeanor in that interview? And the reporting that came from the meeting was that he was very light touch in his approach to the president, simply sharing advice, sharing information, not coming to Washington with demands. Sounds like a successful visit in that way.
It would be defined as such. I can tell you, having spoken to a very senior member of his retinue yesterday, that's certainly the way the Israelis are seeing it. They came here to close ranks anew with the US president, with his administration, after a swirl of reports, sometimes open statements by the president in recent weeks, expressing not just his vexation, his exasperation with the course of the war, but also to a degree with Israeli conduct, especially when it came to the second front, which is in Lebanon. Now, Israel is not part of this resumed fighting with Iran. That appears to be by design. The Americans have not requested it. And the Israelis are happy to content themselves with fighting Iran-backed Hezbollah in Lebanon. I think Netanyahu's point was to show the world and his electorate, he's up for re-election in October, that things are okay yet again with the US president, and also to publicly voice, should we call it, a submissive posture with the alpha dog. Forgive me being colloquial, but I think that Trump would approve of a term like that.
I bet he would.
He calls the shots. Netanyahu, in his own words, is the junior partner. I think this aims to dispel theories that have gone around that Israel was the Trump whisperer pulling his chain, pushing him into this war. That's not the case. It's Netanyahu coming, sharing ideas, saying he did not offer a proposal or a formula of his own. He wanted to hear what the president wants to do and is fully supportive of that.
You referred to an Iranian proxy war. You've already mentioned Hezbollah. What is Hezbollah's posture right now following very intense fighting with Israel a couple of weeks ago? And how come no one is talking about Gaza, Hamas, which is effectively how this all began?
That's a very good observation, and we are expecting in the near future to hear news from Gaza. There are multiple proliferating press reports in the last 2-3 hours that Hamas has agreed to disarm under a US-sponsored plan by the so-called Board of Peace. It's an international consortium set up to take Gaza from ceasefire to peaceful reconstruction and recovery. That requires at the very least that Hamas put down its weapons, become reabsorbed into the Palestinian body politic as another political party, not a subnational group. The Israelis have said they're open to it, but according to every diplomat involved, it hinges on Hamas disarmament. Hamas has yet to confirm those reports. If, indeed, we hear in the near future that it's laying down its arms, that will entirely shift this crisis. Obviously, there are many fronts, but Gaza is the ground zero of this multi-front war culminating in this current US-Israeli war with Iran. Presumably, once Hamas feels comfortable enough to take that step, Hezbollah may follow. In Lebanon, Iran will be losing 2 of its proxies on the Mediterranean coast. It may actually become more defiant, feeling that its influence in the region has been cut down, or it may see itself also in a position to rethink its entire posture, at least when it comes to the United States and the Strait of Hormuz.
This would be dramatic news if it were to happen. And not to digress, but what would this mean for Gaza? No one knows this better than you. Would there be immediate investment? How would this rebuilding take place?
It wouldn't be immediate, as Mladenov, he's the Bulgarian diplomat who now heads effectively the Board of Peace, has said no one's going to invest when they're worried that there is a bomb or an armed gunman around the corner.
So first, trust would need to be established.
Trust, verification, and also not just an end to the arsenal wielded by Hamas, but an end to the tunnels dug by Hamas. Hamas still controls 35% of the Gaza Strip. It has tens of thousands and low tens of thousands of fighters, many of them teenagers effectively conscripted because of their lack of other options now. They really are destitute in the Gaza Strip. So what there would be is a process beyond the giving up of the arsenal verification process, engineers sent in to dismantle what remains of those tunnels, to ensure that there is no underground infrastructure for Hamas or another armed group to fall back on. Then we would see long-term reconstruction as well as an Israeli withdrawal.
You're prepared to report on that?
I'm very much looking forward to it.
One of the greatest developments of your career to cover this.
Absolutely. You have a part of the world that has suffered immensely for decades, certainly in the last 2.5 years. And literally from the ground up, I don't mean to be blithe about it, but the destruction is widespread. A sea of ruins in what used to be the Gaza Strip. Many people living in tents. It would be one of the biggest rehabilitation projects we've seen, certainly this century, potentially since the late 20th century, or the mid-20th century.
Dan, we're so lucky to have you, and it's been a real treat to have you in Washington this week. I hope that you'll come back, and I'd love to come see you at your home someday as well.